All right, here it is in the home garage. The 2025 racing mower project. Try to document this whole build this time and not get too terribly distracted, but this is the mower I'm planning to use for the 2025 and for the race season. Basically the one that I built last season, pretty much the same thing, same chassis. This motor's a little bit larger. But I liked a ton of things about it. There's a couple things that I wish I would have done a little bit differently. But basically I'm gonna copy and paste a lot of that. A lot of my files that I used on my CNC table are all gonna be the same. So that'll speed things up because I got, well, I think it's July 29th or June 29th right now. And race weekend is August 9th, I think. And we got some camping trips and stuff in between there. So I gotta really stay focused, keep it simple. So I think a lot of the hard work that I did on the last one will cross over to this one, and we'll just try to cut a bunch of weight and basically tweak some steering stuff. Transmission gearing is going to be a little bit differently. I'm going to go with bigger pulleys on the motor to the Peerless 700, which will make it slower, but then I'm going to build it in such a way that I can do freaking mosquitoes, bigger sprockets off the Peerless 700 to this. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to go with another Amazon axle or if I'm going to try to go with a go-kart style. The Amazon one was pretty chintzy and bent pretty easily, but yeah, that's the plan here so far. I'm a huge fan of these newer looking Husqvarnas. I think they make a pretty sweet racer. I definitely love the old style ones too, but there's just something about these, and I have some great friends that own Woodsman equipment down in Salmon Arm. And they always give me great deals on mowers that weren't worth fixing for whatever reason. This one here has been in their yard for a while. Not exactly sure what was gone with it. I had this motor, Kawasaki, here running at my shop the other day. It seems to be fine to me. I don't even remember what's all missing off of this one. We stole spindles and front tires off of it for one of my employees' projects for a race weekend we did a bit ago. Got the fuel pumps missing. I thought the starter solenoid was missing, but that's here. I got another one at the same time that I got this one, so might be thinking of that one there. But yeah, basically step one's going to be strip it basically down to the chassis. I'm going to try to order some 16-inch rear tires for this one. My other ones all run 18-inch by 8s, and then probably run 16 by 8s again on the front. But I'm thinking about going with some 6-inch wheels on the front of this one here. Just trying to keep that rotating mass down a little bit. And yeah, let's strip it now. All right, got her long way stripped down. Baby's still sleeping, so I got a bit of time. I just noticed something here. Curious if this might be part of what the issue was with this mower, but the vent line for the fuel system got pinched here, and there is no way that any air was getting through that. So maybe this cap has vented itself. It's kind of hard to tell. I think it might be. So it might not be a big deal, but kind of always interesting when you see a relatively new mower that gets taken apart or whatever. I mean, this engine might have low compression. I haven't even checked that yet, but kind of funny. So yeah, strip out the fuel tank and the rear transmission because we are not using any of that. Then we'll get this mower deck off of here and take it outside probably and get all the gunk off of it. I'm going to keep all of the sensors and stuff because my dad actually uses pretty much the exact same mower as this for his yard work, and he's got one of them that's on the fritz there somewhere, so might as well do that over buying new parts and bits and pieces. But that's what we've stripped off here so far. As you can tell, I'm a big Husqvarna fan. making great progress. Still got to get rid of a little bit of wiring, all this linkages and pedals and all that. We won't be using. That front axle's got to come out. On my other one, I actually spun my engine 180 degrees with the carburetor out the back. So I do a bit of a firewall style dashboard here, and I think I'm going to still do that on this one here. I just want to try to factor weight distribution a bit better on this one and actually see. So I wonder if I'm a little bit light on my front tires on my other one. I haven't ever scaled it or whatever, which would be a little bit challenging to do, but I suppose I could round up 4 bathroom scales and figure that out with my weight in there. But yeah, this is getting close. Okay, there we go. Approximate time to strip a nearly complete tractor is less than 1 1.5-year-old's nap time. So that's cool. So yeah, motor came out, and I'm actually pretty sure it has a 1-inch crankshaft, whereas the last one I had, it's a Briggs & Stratton 22, and it has an 1 1/8 crank, which means for the type of centrifugal or centrifugal clutch that I put on the end of the crank, had to get bored out last time because you can't get an 1 1/8 one without spending huge dollars. So I'm hopeful that the one I have is just going to fit right on there and save me a little bit of machining costs. And yeah, so now I get this clean and start laying out, getting ready for race stuff. So obviously I'm not using that, definitely using that. Probably going to use that steering shaft. A section of these fenders we'll use. A couple of those tensioners we'll use. I keep all of these little self-threading bolts because it's actually kind of nice. You can just drill a bit smaller hole and then send them in with an impact and they'll create their own threads, which is super handy for when you're actually at a race and you need to take something apart really quickly and you're not having to hold a wrench on the back side. But last time I used one of these battery trays and just put it down right like that, basically underneath my seat to keep my battery weight really low. I'm considering buying a small dirt bike battery. That'd be half to a quarter that size. Just kind of depends. It's probably $100 for that, and I have a couple of those batteries, so I might just deal with the extra weight of those. Obviously, we'll use the hood. The dash is junk. That's junk. We'll use the starter solenoid. That axle's not junk, but I don't know if I'll sell it or maybe use it for a different project one day or something. But yeah, that whole front axle is pretty much junk because it's just solid cast and you can't really weld to it. And I have a different style that I'm going to try to do. I'm going to try to do my whole steering assembly with Heim joints this time. Last one I made has my own version of knuckles, which worked really well, but they're just heavy and they don't have a ton of adjustments. So yeah. All right, this is always kind of fun to do. My last one, the fenders more or less got cut off up in here. So the seat can sit super low in there, and these running boards are gone. So kind of everything here in the middle is going to get cut out yet. But it's always kind of fun to give it a rough mock-up. This one's kind of cool because the intake is different on this motor than the last one. So last one I did an aluminum dashboard here that kind of contours and fits all around in there, which also supports the upper part of the steering. And it leaves a big open spot in the middle because the only thing that goes in here is the shifter. But having the air filter come through the dash here, you can put a big air filter on it that doesn't have much of a restriction on it, which is cool. Most of the other ones are all out in the front, which is kind of right in the dust zone of the tractor you're behind. I don't hope for this tractor to be behind anyone, but you know, it always happens. So yeah, this is kind of sweet. So we'll end up cutting all of this crap off here on the bottom. Obviously we're not pulling any trailers anymore. And I think the axle's actually gonna end up sitting on top of this frame. The last one I had 2 renditions on how I did it. And then I ended up re-welding a section off of an old Craftsman onto the back here to mount pillow block bearings for the rear axle. I just have to decide what I'm gonna make as my final choice for the rear fenders, but I didn't have all of this here for the last one, and this is, I ended up kind of building something similar, but it's gonna be nice because the fenders more or less can mount right here and here down, or something similar to that, which will help keep it more rigid. These fenders are 1.5 inches narrower than the last ones, or last set I built as well, which I think will be nice, a little lighter weight. If I even use them, there's a chance I might go with some like old school ones that are just pure metal that don't have any of this plastic stuff, but time is the biggest factor for this build, so we're probably just gonna keep it simple and streamline the parts that we got. The other one also, I used this factory steering column, and I end up, well, since I redid my rear axle, I had to lift my seat a little bit, and I find my steering wheel to be a little bit too low and far away from where I'm sitting. So I'll probably end up building a new steering shaft and cutting out this section of the hood here so I can get it up, because the other one's pretty much flat. I'm gonna get the other one kicked on a little bit of an angle and a little closer to me to just make it a little bit more comfortable. I'm gonna try to recline my back seat a little bit more and just really work on getting the proportions of my body to fit the tractor, whereas last time I just kind of made it work, and it's not the comfiest. It's not, well, it's comfier than a lot of tractors I've seen, but it's not quite as proportioned as I want this one to be. Also, my last one is orange and gray. I'm trying to decide if I'm gonna paint all of this stuff gray and then rims and chassis and everything orange on this one, but I want them to look similar so you can kind of tell it's part of the same team, but the exact same is too boring, seeing as I have the capability to paint everything. So paint suggestions would be welcome. So this is a Peerless 700. I've got pretty much the same thing on my other tractor. It's just, I don't know what this one, I think is out of a little John Deere. The one on my other tractor, I believe, is out of an old Cub Cadet or an International Harvester. I can't quite remember. Big differences on those ones is the other one has a shaft that came through all the way through the transmission, and drive was actually on this side off of a spline shaft, and the brake was off of this side on a 5/8 shaft, and the brake shaft was actually larger than the little spline shaft. But for the sake of finding hubs and sprockets to keep it simple, I use this side anyway, so that'll be nice. It'll keep that similar. We'll end up mounting this. Drive just ends up sitting nicely there, but it'll end up sitting somewhere up in here. One thing I did on the last one that I want to change on this one is I mounted it very close to this outer edge. So I have a 2.5 inch, I think, pulley on the other one, and it's right there. So unless I customize the side of my frame and let it come through, I can't go with a bigger pulley on that. And the one thing I've found on like a regular transaxle, you end up going pretty much as small of a pulley as you can back there to increase your speed. On the Peerless, because I have the benefit of being able to change my gearing with the chain driven sprockets, I want to keep that thing spinning slower. Just, there's no point in making that thing overspin at the crank when I can do the same thing over here. My other one it has a very, very loud whine to it that I think is potentially harder on the transmission than it needs to be. So we're going to just do a little different on this one, and I'll go with like I've got a 10 tooth and a 12 tooth that I change back and forth on my other one depending on what track we're at. This one here, I'm going to keep it more centered on the chassis, and I'm going to run, I don't even know, something in the neighborhood of a sprocket about that big around. So I'll have to probably create a little groove in here for that to clear, but that'll make it easier to change my gearing depending on what the track is like. The other thing I'm thinking about doing, just kind of got the idea from these slots that are already in this piece here, is I'm thinking I might build my rear axle similar to like a little go-kart or whatever, where I can slide it forward and backwards to adjust my chain tension, because that's a big factor of my other tractor, because my other tractor has a Nerf bar that runs around here to protect my feet, and it actually kind of comes somewhere centered on the transmission, so my chain goes over it and under it. So then when I changed a couple things with my back sprocket, I went to go back to my other sprocket on the front, and it's actually rubbing on my Nerf bar now. So I want to make sure when I build this one I don't have any interference of anything in the chain. The biggest thing is going to be like a sit somewhere there flat. And then the height of my seat, I'd like the top of it to be somewhere here, reclined back and up. So the chain in between my legs, obviously we've got to build a guard and all that for that, but that's the only thing that I'm really going to have to contend with this chain if I center it there, is just how it fits in between my seat and all of that. So that's the plan, and that's probably about it for today.